Well, hey, what's up? And good afternoon, folks. Hope you guys are ready to have a great stream. And by the way, I hope you're having an incredible day today. Today is the day the Lord has made. I'm going to rejoice and I'm going to be glad in it. And I hope you're right there with me. You're going to rejoice. You're going to be glad in it. And I'm so excited to be on the stream with you today. And there's certainly some things that I think are worth diving into. One of those things, and I want to look at the similarities between Aidan Clune case and everything that we find out about the Aidan Clune case and compare that with what we know about the Dylan Rounds case. I hope you guys are having a great day. Let me know where you are tuning in from. I'm coming to you live from Northern California. I've been on the living room tour, and I'm excited to be on the stream with you right now. What up? What up, people? Hey, let me know where you're watching from, too. By the way, I love knowing that every time we come together on these streams, we have people who are tuning in from literally all over the place. Moorhead, Minnesota, Toronto, Canada, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Idaho, Indiana, Canada, North Carolina, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Chicago, North Carolina, Colorado, Louisiana, Kansas, Arizona, Texas, United Kingdom, Michigan, Carmel, California, Tennessee, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, California, Mississippi, Dallas. Hey, Mike, hope you're doing well. Sweden, Ottawa, St. Louis. Hey, Red, I hope you're doing well. South Carolina, Illinois, Austin, Lebanon. Great to see you guys. Do me a favor. If you haven't done so already, hit the like button. That helps shoot us out into the YouTube algorithm. And another thing, just so you guys know, I have the link pinned. If anybody wants to call in today, it is open. All you got to do is click that link and call in and share your thoughts with me. Renee, thank you for that super sticker. I bless you. Every super sticker makes a huge difference. Thank you for getting us started today. This is our first super sticker of the day. I found this interesting story I wanted to share with you guys about a family in Utah that got closure after 3 years.
Getting some answers. Earlier this week, police found the body of a man who'd been missing for 3 years.
Fox 13 News reporter Maithili Gubi spoke to his family and reports on what this loss means to them.
He was last seen on Father's Day, June 16th, 2019.
A few days ago, a hiker in the Corner Canyon area reported seeing human remains on the trail. That's when Draper City Police came out and found a wallet belonging to Bradley Cutler.
My siblings and I have all agreed that it's felt like we've had to mourn twice for our dad.
Cameron Nord is Cutler's stepson, but he says that the word step was never a part of their relationship. He says this loss weighs heavily on him.
Most difficult to come to terms with, I had this idea of this complete person, and it has immediately turned into that person is gone forever.
Nord calls his dad his hero.
Dealing with it was hard. I was the last person, he lived with. So when he left, I was expecting him to leave, but not to disappear.
Nord says he wants to thank the hiker who found his father's body and brought some closure to this family.
Apologize if it was unnerving or traumatizing, but you've helped myself and my family in so many ways.
Nord says his dad was struggling at the time, but hopes that if anyone else is hurting too, they can get help and know that they have people who love them.
Still valuable. You are still valuable, and I wish so much I could tell him that.
The Draper City Police Department says they're working with the medical examiner's office to determine what the official cause of death is, and that will help police figure out what their next steps are.
I thought that was wild. 3 years later, they find a body. I hope that's not the case in the Dylan Rounds case that we're working on, but at least they found a body. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit because I want to talk about some of these similarities between the Aidan Clune case and the Dylan Rounds case.
New at 10, it has now been more than 2 weeks since a Sonoma teenager's mysterious disappearance. And tonight, His family, friends, and teachers came together for the first time to hold a vigil. The 19-year-old was tracked in the Nevada wilderness but has not been seen since. KTV's Alyssa Harrington was at the vigil and has our report.
Friends, former classmates, and family members shouted the name of Aidan Clune, a 19-year-old from Sonoma who has been missing more than 2 weeks. They gathered for a candlelight vigil to pray for his safe return.
He was one of the most intelligent, caring people I've ever met.
We hold him in our hearts right now as we go through this.
Lenny Paracchini organized the event. He's a teacher at Sonoma Valley High School, and Aidan was his student before he graduated last year. He called Aidan bright and creative and felt it was important for everyone impacted by his disappearance to come together.
We have been privately grieving and having sadness and haven't had the opportunity to come together to support each other and show our love.
Aidan was last seen more than 500 miles away in Elko County and may have been in the area of Wells, Nevada. His vehicle was found abandoned on the side of the highway. The 2007 Nissan Frontier was discovered the morning of April 28th. Investigators believe Aidan walked into the wilderness. An aerial search tracked his footprints for 10 miles.
All of us who know Aidan have been devastated by the circumstances that he's in right now.
Former classmates say Aidan was a great friend and they hope to see him again soon. Sophia Strand has known him since preschool. She said he was her first boyfriend.
He was my first boyfriend. Yeah, he was just really sweet, like the perfect first boyfriend someone could have. He was just so smart. I'm very glad that everyone had the opportunity to get together tonight to just send good energy into the earth. It's horrible, and there's not honestly much else to say.
Well, I'm going to share with you guys the timeline of that Aidan Clune case. There's so many things that are fascinating about it. Again, this is from a Sonoma, California teen who actually went into the Nevada area, and similarly, multi-state investigation going on here. Wells, Nevada is sort of the last place he was seen missing. Elko County Sheriff's officials have provided a timeline of Sonoma teenager Aidan Clune's actions on April 27th before he stopped his truck on US 93 in East Nevada and then disappeared 21 miles into the wilderness. Authorities have organized a final search for Clune, which will take place on Saturday. It will include 4 to 6 horses, 4 search and rescue dogs, and local county sheriff Aitor Narvazia. So far, tracking efforts and aerial searches have failed to yield any new findings, Under Sheriff Justin Ames said. And one major question still remains unanswered. Why did Aidan Clune run off into the Nevada wilderness? His footsteps showed he was moving quickly through the terrain, which law enforcement tracked for 21 miles into the high desert before the trail was lost. The investigation has stumped detectives who have more than 100 years of combined experience in missing persons cases. And if they're unable to locate Clune on Saturday, the investigation will move from a search and rescue effort to a recovery mission. So let's break down the timeline of his disappearance. At 6:23 a.m. on April 27th, Clune was seen on video surveillance leaving a hotel room alone from the high desert town of Wells, Nevada, according to the sheriff's office. The population of Wells is just over 1,000 people, but it's the crossing point between 2 major highways, east and west on Interstate 80 and US Route 93, which measures north and south. That Wednesday morning, Clune drove his 2007 red neon Frontier south along US 93. Shortly after 8 a.m., Clune stopped near Curry, which is considered a ghost town with a population of just 20 people. The town sits at 5,000 feet above sea level, and the mountains that surrounded the west side of the U.S., Route 93, climb more than 8,000 feet into the eastern Nevada sky. The weather was fair. The temperature was a chilly 44 degrees when Clune stopped there. It remains unclear why he pulled onto the shoulder of the road, Ames said. And without criminal suspicion in this case, authorities say they're unable to break into the vehicle to look for clues. Without keys to start the car or open the doors, it's not known as if his truck ran out of gas. Authorities have asked Clune's mother for a set of spare keys, but they haven't received them yet. Temperatures in the high desert of northeast Nevada regularly plunge to 20 degrees at night. Clune is believed to have a black North Face jacket and black high-top sneakers. So, I mean, this is a pretty crazy story so far, folks. Just as we're reading, through it and working out the details. If you're with me, type with me in the chat. That way I know who's here. At 8:50 a.m., a Nevada Highway Patrol officer discovered Clune's truck on the side of the highway, but did not see the shaggy-headed 125-pound, 19-year-old Sonoma resident. As the investigation continued, authorities learned that Clune ran from his vehicle and headed into the nearby hills. Law enforcement officials are still piecing together why. The tracks showed he ran away and crawled through bushes. Clune took only his phone from the vehicle, leaving behind his wallet, a knife, and the rest of his belongings, which could be seen through the windows. Gusts of wind of up to 31 miles per hour began to buffer the area by 7 p.m., and the temperature began to drop. The low temperature for that day was 40 degrees. At 8:07, the last ping from Clune's phone showed his location southwest of where his vehicle was abandoned. Ames wrote in an email to the Index Tribune. Citing Clune's mother, Ames said Clune's phone showed his last Google search was for spark plug replacement. The search for Clune will continue this Saturday, which will mark the 17th day the Sonoma Valley teenager has been missing. I've spent my whole career helping in these situations. We believe there's a reason he took off in the desert. We just don't know why. Is that not fascinating? I mean, it's absolutely heartbreaking. And I definitely want Aidan Clune to be found, but I just found that to be a fascinating story. He takes off driving from California into Nevada, somehow gets into Nevada. Don't know, is there something wrong with his truck? They can't even get into his truck, apparently, because the key situation. And then they're looking in there. They're like, well, it seems like he's left everything. He just took his cell phone with him. Then they take his phone, or they check his phone, and the last thing he had searched for was spark plugs. So it makes you think that, there was a situation with spark plugs that was going on, and his truck maybe was broke down. It's just totally fascinating, to me. Just absolutely fascinating. When we look at this on a map too, like I'll put it on the map beside Google. He was last seen in Wells, Nevada. So Wells, Nevada is there. And if we went there from Montello, I mean, it's 49 miles away, but it's like 2 towns over in terms of how that area works. And so that's why some people were questioning. There was a sort of like some things that weren't adding up in the story of the person that Dylan gave a ride for in the desert. And so it was like, is there a chance that Aidan Clune was out in Dylan's neck of the woods by chance? Like, is that a possibility at all of something that could have happened? So that was just a question and a thought that people had. And I think it's a fascinating question and a thought. Here was sort of the divergence of those details. The way that Candace described the person and the way that Chase was completely different. So Candace said that Dylan picked up a bloody person out in the middle of the desert with no shoes on, completely disheveled. The way that other people had described the way that Dylan described Chase, and the way that Chase described himself was like not bloody, was wearing one shoe, but wasn't as disheveled and beat up as what Dylan's mom was making it out to be. So people started to say, well, is there possibly two people? Plus, why would he say some stranger when he knew who Chase was? So to me, it's just fascinating. And not only that, but people have said too, like the two of them actually look kind of similar. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I'll put them up. I'll put them up on the screen next to each other. You guys can tell me. Do you think they look similar? Actually, they do kind of look similar now that I have them up next to each other like that. I'll do a poll question. Sorry, folks. My connection's a little unstable where I'm at. Let me check the poll. 88% of you guys so far say they definitely look similar. Hunt for Justice says they could pass as brothers. I mean, they're wearing similar clothes too, really. Kind of got the same haircut. Same little kind of a grin. Fascinating. And two, like it was kind of fascinating how they're saying Aidan Clune takes off his shoes when he would walk over a road. It just, a lot of it doesn't make sense. It begs you to have the question a little bit, like, was there a mental health crisis going on? What was that mental health crisis? It sounded like something was wrong with his truck because he was looking up spark plug replacement on Google. I don't know anybody who's looking to end themselves that are also looking on how to repair and fix their truck. So there's another fascinating thought. It's just all these little details in it. And I like, again, there's a whole lot more details about the Aidan Clune case we haven't even scratched the surface on. And people were trying to say yesterday Aidan Clune was found. That was not true. And then on May 24th, which was just a couple days before Dylan goes missing, the sheriff suspends the search for Dylan Rounds. I mean, I pray to God that he's alive. What are the chances of the two of them possibly crossing paths? You know what I mean? Because it'd be fascinating. Is there any chance the two of them knew each other beforehand? Also fascinating. If you weren't here on the stream yesterday, we did this thing where we were sort of like looking at the 4 dimensions or 4 lives that somebody could have. And this was from Doctora Latina. She gave us this idea to do this. And so your public space is, what are the things that people know about you publicly? Like how are you projecting yourself to the world, to the people around you? And for Dylan, it's like the one thing he wanted people to know about him, or the one thing he was willing to share with people, would be that he was farming, more farming. Farming was at the center of all of it. Just amazing. Love farming. That was sort of the center of it. The private space would be this part of Dylan that maybe his close friends knew about. And so, like, what do I know about his private space? Well, I know that he lied about his age to Kurt. You can gather from some of the conversation that's going on, there's some dysfunction in his family. There's divorce and brokenness in his family, split home in his family. All that's very difficult for a young person. Then there's the secret space. What's the things that he does that he doesn't tell anybody about? Did he have friends in Mexico? Did he lie about his age to get beer from Kurt? Like, what is it? What's going on in that secret space? And then the clandestine space would be this part of his life or this part of who he is that is secret, but, is scandalous, or maybe it's a vice. And that's, did he have a second phone? They said he was constantly on his phone. Nobody really knew what he was doing on it. Did he have a second phone? By the way, I just put the link in the chat if anybody wants to call in. Share your thoughts with me about Dylan Rounds or Aidan Clune, either one. You look at the lives of all of these people and how they're so intermingled and intertwined. It's just fascinating for me. Stars Above says, Tyler, can you tell me what Dylan was farming? So we know that he had experience farming alfalfa, but that appears to likely have been from another county, like maybe, or another farm. Maybe the farm that he possibly helped with that was near the airport, or maybe that's from the Wine Cup Gamble farm. His mom said that he was, and I don't know the exact way to pronounce it, but it's like triticale or triticale. It's this, I wonder if I can Google how to pronounce that. Type of hay, essentially. Triticale. I think it's pronounced triticale. But anyways, it's type of hay. How far was Aidan's last phone ping to where Dylan was? Well, his last phone ping was in Wells, going towards these mountains, essentially. Montello is here, which is 50 miles away. And Lucin is even further away than that. Like, Lucin's another 25 miles over here. So roughly 75 miles away. But in this general same neck of the woods. Did we ever hear whose body they found? No, we did not. Unfortunately, we did not. It'd be great if we did, but we have not found that information yet. Thank you, Renee, for that super sticker. And I thought it was fascinating, too, that Chase Vinstra has been cleared in the news. And I know we played that yesterday and the day before, but I'll play it again for you guys.
Chase Ventura is sitting in jail after a search warrant supposedly linked him to the disappearance of Dylan Rounds. Now, some are saying he's been cleared.
I'm not surprised they don't find anything physically, because that desert is unforgiving.
Nearly 2 months after Dylan Rounds suddenly disappeared, there's been no sign of him. At this point, the investigation is centering on two people, Chase Venstra and James Brenner. According to Dylan's mother, these two have the answers.
I absolutely believe so. I 100% believe so.
Box Elder authorities named Brenner a suspect in Dylan's disappearance. Venstra was connected to the disappearance in a search warrant, but nearly 2 months later, no one's been charged.
And so we're just hoping they get that one piece that somebody can be charged and we can finally release it.
But yesterday in federal court, a possible development in the investigation. Venstra was in court. Afterwards, a woman who hosts a crime podcast met with a federal prosecutor.
He said that as far as he knows, Chase Venstra is no longer a person of interest in Dylan Brown's disappearance. And that came rather as a shock.
Cooley had not heard that, and her podcast quickly set a firestorm on social media. Some cast doubt whether or not the Venstra development was even true.
Now, people are talking about how Chase is like, he's no longer a person of interest and how he made a deal and yada, yada, yada. I'm not believing anything. I don't think anyone's going to tell us anything unless there's a press release.
Late this afternoon, Dylan's mother met with an FBI agent on this very same issue and was told that Venstra has never been part of this investigation and that the search warrant was misconstrued.
Yeah, but she had said in the previous interview, everyone was a suspect. Joan, thank you for that super chat. You said it'd be interesting to know if there's any other men this age that are missing in the U.S. If so, do they look so much like these two men? That's definitely a great little way to do some research. Appreciate your super chat too, Joan. I think it's very fascinating.
It'd be interesting to know if there's any
Bradley, how are you?
in the U.S. If so, do they look so much like these two men? That's a great.
Bradley, you got to listen to us through StreamYard, not through YouTube because there's a lag. Joanne, I bless you. Thank you for becoming a part of the Feller fam. Bradley, are you there?
Yes, Tyler, I am.
So what are your thoughts?
I'm wondering, Jim originally said that Dylan was gay, and if Aidan was gay also, if they knew each other through Grindr, because the mother of Aidan said that he got a phone call and then immediately was upset and left. And I'm wondering if he was communicating with Dylan and that Dylan actually found him in the place, and then Jim or somebody knew about all this and there was some kind of conspiracy there.
Yeah, I just don't think there's any evidence that would point towards that. It's like we have no clue if that would be true or not. But in the case of Aidan, his ex-girlfriend was on the news on the first video that I played. So that's one way for me. I'm like, that doesn't add up or make sense,
Right. But I'm just curious because Jim said that Aidan or Dylan had a Grindr account. Why has nobody looked into that to see who he was communicating with?
I think the person who gave the source for that Dylan had that app is a very unreliable source, and people have tried to find that account and it doesn't exist.
Okay. How do you feel about Ty pointing the fingers at everyone else? And it just seems odd to me that he keeps pointing his fingers at everybody else. Everybody says he's an upstanding guy, but if you look into his background, he's not an upstanding guy.
I don't know about any of that, but I think like a little bit perspective that I would think would be Ty's out there as a local person, and there's all these other local people that call into these shows and act like they want to help go search, and none of them are actually doing that. So it sort of feels like, I don't know, I wouldn't put it past Ty to be upset about that. You know what I mean? Like if he's out there searching in the heat every day in the middle of the desert and all these other people are just running their mouths about it and not actually out there helping search, I would be a little frustrated about that.
I could see your point there, but it just seems like he's hell-bent on Jim Brenner and pointing the finger at other people all the time. And I did listen to Kurt's interview, and for him to be so detailed about twine and stuff being around Dylan's neck, he had to be there when everything was going down. There's no doubt in my mind.
It just felt strange that, Kurt seemed to have a lot of detailed evidence of theories of what may have happened. It's like, man, he's a really good storyteller, if nothing else.
I don't believe it's so much story, Tyler. I believe it's fact that he was actually part of that scene.
Do you think the FBI would have arrested him already if that was the case?
I feel they probably should have arrested him and put him in a cell, and he would have broke. Because I think he's hiding a lot more than a lot of people think he is.
At this point, I don't think Brenner has any motivation to be sharing any information,
I don't think I personally don't think if he was working for Dylan that he did it. I think it was somebody else. That's my personal opinion. I know a lot points toward him, but there's also been a lot of scenes staged out there from what I understand through these different shows. But what do you believe and what do you not believe through these shows? I mean, I watch yours, and yours is more genuine than most. So I do appreciate that part of it.
Yeah, it's hard to make sense of, like, when do you take an eyewitness account or a local's opinion and use it as a plot point on an official timeline? And then there seems to be some discrepancies in what we hear from the news versus what we hear from the family versus what we hear from locals versus what we hear from YouTubers. And so, like, part of the challenge that all of us are having is, like, sorting through the mass amounts of disinformation and finding the pieces that are actually real information and then plotting them on a grid and sort of saying, like, okay, these are the facts that we can begin to base hypothesis or theories off of. And I think that's part of the intrigue to this case, but it's also a little bit of the frustration that nobody's able to get down to the bottom of what happened from a truth perspective, because truth seems to shift like the sand.
Right. I just really curious of how do we know that it was Chase that he found in the desert? Because, like you said, Dylan knew Chase and he didn't mention him by name. I find that really odd.
Yeah. I've questioned that. The only thing that makes me think it is the same person was that it's the same day. So, like, what would be the chances that Dylan would be giving two people a ride on that day, or refusing to give one person a ride, but giving another person a ride on that day? Like, that's the day was the same from it being Chase versus it being someone else. Like, I find that really fascinating, but that's one of the details that doesn't add up. Like, the way that Chase described himself on that day, who does say that Dylan gave him a ride, and then the way that Candace described the way that Chase was that day, those two descriptions do not fit the same mold. And so that's why people have started to question, like, well, was there another person? Because even the way Dylan talked about the stranger is not the way he would have probably likely talked about someone he knew named Chase. So,
exactly. And the reason I think it might have been Aidan that he found was he covered 21 miles in a very short time. Another 20 miles to Montello would not be hard to cover.
It's more like 50 miles, I think, would have got him to Montello, but
well, if they chased him 21 miles the first day and he was moving that quickly, what's another 30 miles to go?
Well, he wasn't moving towards Montello. He was moving away from Montello.
Okay, I misconstrued that. That's right.
Yeah, he was moving southwest towards the mountain range. And that's where people started to get really concerned, because if he climbed the mountain and it's very cold and he doesn't have proper supplies, it just didn't seem like it was going to be a good ending.
No, I don't think it's going to be a good ending for either one, to be honest.
Oh man, I honestly don't think so either, but I really hope so.
I'm praying that it's a better outcome, but I really feel that in that desert, and I worked in Barstow, California, out in Death Valley when I was in the military, I know that we found a lot of bodies that were missing for amounts of time, and it's an unforgiving wilderness that just, unfortunately, I don't think you'll ever have the answers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm right there. I'm right there with you.
And I honestly don't know why BLM hasn't got more involved, because there's a lot of federal land out there, and I just don't understand with all the technology they have why they haven't tried to help.
Maybe they have. I think there's a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes that we're not privy to the information of.
Right.
I think there's probably some ways that they're like far exceeding our expectations, and then there are other ways that they're completely underwhelming their responsibilities.
Right. Well, I know that law enforcement and the FBI keep a lot of things under, and that's just from working law enforcement in the military in the past. So yeah, I appreciate you talking to me and giving me the chance to get some of my views out there. But I really feel Aidan and Dylan knew each other somehow, and
I
that's
mean, it'd be fascinating if that turns out to be true. And it would be a weird ending, but if the two of them had taken off together, skipped town and reset or whatever, that would be wild. Maybe they're both recruited by the government for some top secret thing we don't know about. You know, who knows?
I
Could be
don't know
wild.
I don't know about that, but I think I'd like to know what that phone call was that made Aiden so upset that he felt he had to leave home and head for that area out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, and I too think people have underestimated, for a variety of reasons, the impact that shutting down the world for 2 years or so has had on teenagers. And these are young men that were very impressionable, and the world shuts down around them. And it, unfortunately piles on an insane amount of undue stress that really teenagers are not meant to hold. And then we sort of come out of that, and there's this collective PTSD as a society that goes on, and there really isn't great cause of action by the culture to help people walk back into society after experiencing 2 years of trauma. And that's a really unfortunate reality that I think we're going to see a lot more of. It's like, what are the long-term effects, not from the medical side of what happened with COVID, but through the sociological perspective of when we shut down the world and we force isolation? What does that actually do to our souls? What does that do to us as humans with our need to connect with others? And especially, what does that do in the minds and hearts of young people who were forced, out of their natural habitats, in their ecosystems that they live in with their schools and social clubs and sports teams, and then take that away from them, and then for 2 years, and then try to reemerge them into something like for some people, that's going to be really challenging. So I'm interested to see what would happen in long term with some of that if we don't get a grip on it.
I totally agree with that. Well, it's been nice talking to you. Unfortunately, I have to go into work, so I'm going to let you go. And
Thanks for calling in, Bradley.
Yep. You have a nice night.
I'm going to try to call Ty Corbin. This is my daily effort to try to call Ty Corbin. He got a new number. No answer. No answer. but I will message and say, "This is Tyler Feller," and see what he says. Ty just got a new phone number, so he doesn't have my number yet. So that's why I texted him and said, "This is Tyler Feller." By the way, I'd love for you guys to call in, open panel, open call-in show. Feel free to just hit that link. Make sure when you do, you're muted on YouTube and you're just using StreamYard to get your audio. Make sure you have your devices connected when you call in, because I can't add you to the stream if you don't. Hey, Diane.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. So what are your thoughts today?
Good. Well, I've been wanting to call in and say this, but I just get really nervous. So, on the fact of people wondering if Jim Brenner was set up because the location of the boots, I actually don't think he was set up, because a lot of criminals are caught on a stupid error, a stupid mistake, and he might not have realized that people would be out there, Monday morning looking for Dylan, where it was the holiday weekend. And he went to the barbecue and kind of forgot about him. But that's just kind of my thought, and I could be way off. But
you think Brenner's responsible?
I do. I think he's responsible. And I've always questioned Kurt. I think that I've found it very interesting, a lot of the things that he has said, but I don't know. I think he gives away too much information. But the phone call to Justin that he made a couple times saying Dylan was being kept, to me seems like a very weird thing, first of all. And then second of all, to be inserting himself so much as to constantly be doing these interviews and giving out so much detail. It just seems very strange to me.
I don't understand that part either.
Yeah.
But Lead with Love says, Diane, you are right. Plus, boots come off when you are dragging someone by the feet.
Oh, well, thank you. I don't know if I am, but I do. I was thinking, I've been talking to my son about this case, and I was telling him a lot of drug busts happen because somebody has a tail light out or a headlight out, something, and they get pulled over and they're caught with drugs. Over the 4th, where I live right outside of where Dylan used to live. And there was a huge drug bust, huge, because there were, like, I don't know, 6 or 7 people. They set off some illegal fireworks. The police came. They were drunk, and they were able to put them all in jail and seize a ton of evidence, a ton of drugs. And I think that sometimes criminals make stupid mistakes and then they get caught.
Oh, big time, for sure.
Yeah. So that's just my thought on it. And then the Aidan Clune one, I'm glad that you're talking about that a little bit, because I am very fascinated with that as well. It just seems so tragic that both boys that age, even though, yes, they were an hour away, but how strange. It's so strange. And I'm not saying they're connected. I just think it's very strange. I kind of hope we get to learn more about it. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. It's fascinating for sure. And I mean, I don't understand the details of it. I hope he's all right. But
yeah,
it just doesn't add up.
No, and it's actually really scary because he went the 20 miles or whatever walking, but did he have food? Did he have water? How long can you last out there?
Yeah.
You can't. It's so hot and dry that yeah, I just think it's very tragic, and I would think that he possibly definitely was struggling with some sort of medical or not medical, sorry, mental um, issues, whatever they may be, anxiety, depression, whatever. Uh, because of course he left his truck, and it's not like he started walking down the road or flagging someone down. They have those footprints, and it just makes you wonder, what was he thinking, you know?
Yeah. I know,
Yeah.
and I think that's a big. I mean, everyone's. No one can seem to make sense of what happened with him. You know what I mean? Everyone's like, "What the
Right.
heck is going on? What was
Yeah.
he thinking?" You
And
know.
he is the same age as Dylan, right?
Um,
Or
he's I think
close?
a year older. He's in the same range.
Okay, okay. So I have a son that is Dylan's age, and his birthday is in June, so he just turned 20. So it's been pretty interesting following this and listening to it. And also, I did want to tell you something about Dylan. So, as far as him dropping out of school and moving away, just so you know, in that area, our schools did close down mid-March, and they went and took around Wi-Fi hotspots to kids who didn't have internet so that they could finish out the year. And then the next year,
The Rigby
all the
School
schools
District.
were, yeah, and all the schools were back in session um, that following year. So after summer, if that makes sense.
Makes
All
sense
of
to me.
Idaho Falls, Rigby, Rexburg, Driggs, they each of them closed down a couple times just for a weekend or whatever because either too many students were sick or too many teachers were. So I found that interesting. And I know Jim said that Candace said he got his GED, but he couldn't find um something that's kind of interesting on that because I'm not going to try to argue with anyone, but I have a kid who was bullied just horrible, and he was running away all the time. It was terrible. So when he was a little over 16, I did let him drop out, but I enrolled him into a college high school program. And he ended up, it was once you can get your GED, so it's a little different than just going to high school, but he got it, but that it came from a different state, and the diploma in that state. Now, I'm
I
not
see.
saying that Dylan did because he could have told his mom that he did, you know, to be able to stay doing what he wanted. So that's something to think about too.
Well, you've given us a lot to think about, Diane. Thank you for calling in.
Well, thank you for letting me call.
All right. We'll talk with you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Desiree, thank you for that super sticker. I bless you. Appreciate your support. Every super sticker, folks, makes such a huge difference and impact. And so thank you so much for hopping on that super sticker train, Desiree. If anybody else wants to hop on, that would be amazing. Sheila says, wasn't Aidan way before Dylan? Love you, Feller fam. Feller fam loves you, Sheila. And yeah, Aidan happened about he went missing 1 month before Dylan, like April 24th. And then and then they searched for him until May 24th. And then Dylan went missing on May 28th. So sort of like the time of it is really oddly familiar. Thank you for your super chat, by the way. Robert, thank you for that super sticker. I bless you. Appreciate your support. Makes such a big difference. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, Snooks, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you doing?
So what are your thoughts?
Well, okay, so here, I've had two things that I wanted to mention, and I just hadn't had the chance to say it, and maybe other people have addressed it. But do you remember they said that it did look like he had problems backing that grain truck up because it was damp, and they were kind of surprised that, I mean, because I guess he did it a lot. I mean, he would back it up there a lot, but there was some ruts and stuff. Do you remember them saying that?
I don't remember them saying that.
Okay, well, I specifically remembered because
Are you still there? We cannot hear you.
hello,
We lost you for a minute.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, the mama, I believe it was the mama that said it, that they looked like it had been like kind of hard for him to get in there. My thing is, if it was hard for him to get in there, and those were his own, Tommy, just one sec, can you please turn that down? Okay, sorry, we're out camping. My thing is, I lived on a farm. If we had boots and we wore them for a long time, we didn't, if it was muddy, you put on your galoshes or your wet boots. That's why I think that his boots were taken off. I believe that something happened to him bad. They got there and they realized they had these boots still there that he had taken off. Because if this sand and mud or whatever it is really becomes cement, you don't want it to get on your boots. That's ridiculous. Why would you want, so you take your boots off, you're going to be in the mud. Plus he was going to be walking home possibly in the rain. So he would take his boots off, he would leave them there. After they saw the boots were there, after the fact, I believe they just tossed them out there as an afterthought is what my feelings are. I mean, do you understand what I mean? Because you don't get your boots, you don't want to get concrete, because they said it almost makes like a concrete all over anything that it covers. So you would take your boots off and you would put on your rubbers.
They found his rubber boots.
Oh, they did. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I did not know that because that had really bothered me. The other thing is, why in the world they say that he called Chase's dad, or Chase's dad was called. Wouldn't that like tell us that definitely it was Chase because it could be traced from that call? I mean, it would be a given.
I don't know if that is substantiated. I think Chase has been cleared.
I know that he was cleared. I just meant if he was the actual, you know how they have said that there's like possibly two people, that would totally like knock that out of the ballpark as far as like the person that was bloody that he met and that he had call and he let him use his phone and called it. I mean, that's,
I see.
Yeah, it's on the phone. I mean, that makes it
that
so
was on
easy.
Wednesday and Dylan went missing on Saturday night.
I know, but on Wednesday, I mean, it would tell us if that was Chase or if that was some random person, because I do believe that he gave Chase a ride.
Oh, I get what you're
I just also wonder, was there someone else? I mean, the bloody person was that.
But
anyway,
but if that's the case, then it's like if he did give Chase a ride, then he did likely let Chase use his phone, right?
Well, true.
Because it's never been disputed that Dylan gave Chase a ride. So it's just like, is there an additional second person as well?
Did the dad, have you talked to the dad? Did dad say that Chase was bloody?
Chase is the one who came out and said that he wasn't bloody. Chase was not in jail. For a few days after this, he was like going on Facebook and was like, yeah, Dylan gave me a ride, but I wasn't disheveled. I wasn't bloody.
He said he wasn't bloody. I just wondered when dad picked him up, did dad say, yeah, he was.
I haven't talked to the dad. I know that Jim Terry called me yesterday and said that he has been in conversation with Chase's dad and is going to release some of that information soon. But he just said that Chase's dad verified that Chase had nothing to do with this and just wanted to thank him for standing up for him.
Oh, well, listen, I thank you for explaining. I have been really torn up about because I have been on a farm. I was raised on a farm. I get it. I knew that there would be rubber boots. I knew that those boots were not messed up. He had not, and this is the other thing. If he was trying to back that grain truck in and there was already they should have had some like crap on it. You know what I mean? Like some mud. And for some reason, I thought they said that they were clean. And maybe I'm wrong on that. You can correct me because I know that you'll know. But that kind of bothered me. I was like, it sounded like he had taken them off, put on a different pair of shoes to not screw up his boots. And then, I mean, not that those were not work boots. It's just you don't want it getting all in the grooves. It's just too hard to clean. So you put on your rubbers, but you said that they did find the rubber boots.
Correct.
That breaks my heart. I really had hopes about that. I really did. I'd had hopes that he had put those on, and
I just wondered if they found his Nikes.
I know. And they did say that there was pictures of some other shoes, and Mom had said that he only wore those boots. And I believe her 100%. Those were the only boots he wore, but I do believe he had other shoes. I have shoes that my mama doesn't know about, right? I mean, we all have shoes that, you don't know everything about your kid. So I mean, that was my hope, is that maybe he had.
Yeah, but she sort of like pinned the conversation like he only wears boots and no other shoe. That's what it made it sound like. And then I go through his pictures, and the day he's leaving to go to the farm and he's at Walmart shopping, he's wearing sneakers.
Thank you.
Looked
Okay.
like he just came from the Nike convention.
Exactly. And I think that he was a creature of habit. I think he's very much like my husband. Same underwear for 30 years. You know what I mean? Only the same underwear, the same socks. I get that. However,
spoiled after 30 years, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, but however, well, hell, you'd think that he would upgrade, right? After 30 years, they make them bigger and better, right? But what I'm saying is, it just seems like you have to be open-minded a little bit as a parent, that possibly they might have had some different shoes. I mean, he may have been hiding. He may have been wearing some Crocs, right? And just hiding them. I mean, not everybody wants everyone to know that they wear Crocs, but you know what? They're really good in mud.
Everybody I know that lives in the country wears Crocs. I mean, everyone.
I know, me too. I've got some out here at the lake. I'm out here at the lake. I got my Crocs. So that's what I was just trying to say. It's like there are certain things, certain footwear, but you don't do your leather boots out if it's raining a lot and it's going to get mud and ruin them. I was just thinking it was a possibility in my head. It was a possibility that he had left him. The person that took him got rid of him. Whatever happened to him, came back and go, oh crap, we got one last thing. We got these 2 damn boots. I need to go toss them. And that's what it looked like happened. They tossed them behind there. To me, that's what it looked like. They didn't toss them well enough, which makes me think it's somebody that's not very smart, which there you go. There goes Dawn. I mean,
Brenner's involved, and the question is, does he have an accomplice? Thank you, Snooks, for calling in. Appreciate you.
Listen, thank you. Thank you for having me on. I've been waiting to ask those questions, and thank you for letting me know about the rubbers and everything. I appreciate that. Thanks a lot. Keep doing your duty. Bye-bye.
Bye. Denise, thank you for that super sticker. I honor you. Thank you for supporting our channel. YouTube, Brandon Walker, thank you for that super sticker. I bless you. I just am so appreciative of you guys' support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. I would say it's okay to purchase some new underwear. After 30 years. I will say that. All right, folks. I'm gonna end the stream. I'll see you guys